Good evening, everyone. My screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, what is our topic of discussion? I think now you can guess because it is written over here, right? Neural networks. But see, learning a code that can design a neural network for any classification task is not so easy. Because you may think that whatever ID I'm using, it's a Jupyter ID, but we have to discuss some more point in details. Now, look at this first. See, here in our machine, I think it is visible that I have three kinds of Jupyter Notebook. One is Jupyter Notebook Anaconda 3. It is written in the parenthesis. Here it is written Jupyter Notebook TensorFlow, and here it is written Jupyter Notebook GODS. Now see, whatever machine learning algorithm we have already designed, that is support vector machine, k nearest neighbor, and k-means clustering algorithms, PCA, everything, whatever we have designed for different machine learning approaches, those are designed in Jupyter Notebook in Anaconda 3. Now, whenever we are going to design a neural network, so here we prefer to use Jupyter Notebook, and which is written Jupyter Notebook, within bracket we have TensorFlow. Now first I will start from here, that is what is the difference between these two Jupyter Notebook, and then we will understand what this TensorFlow will do. Then we will proceed to the concept of neural network, and then we will try to decode the code, right? So now if you ask me this question, that is what is the difference between these two kinds of Jupyter Notebook. So whenever I'm talking about Jupyter, see, it's a new name. We know that it's a new concept, a new name which is coming from IPython. It's a version of IPython notebook. Earlier it is known as IPython notebook. So an IPython notebook, you can say that it is a cell-based notebook, which means it will act like IDE, integrated desktop environment, which uses your available interpreter to provide an environment for Python programming, right? Now let's talk about TensorFlow. So why we are using TensorFlow today? So whenever we are talking about TensorFlow, see, TensorFlow is a deep learning library. And it is invented by, or it is created by Google Brain. Means Google Brain team. There is one team known as Google Brain team who has created this TensorFlow deep learning libraries. So what is the aim of this deep learning TensorFlow library? The main aim is it can perform speedy computations and it can create deep learning models. And its API, whatever API it will use, its API is Python. So basically, whenever I'm talking about Jupyter in TensorFlow, means we are going to design, or we are going to explore. Basically, we are going to explore the deep learning libraries in order to design some deep learning models. And you have to remember one point, the API which is explored by this TensorFlow is Python. Now you can ask me one question, that is, what is the basic concept of API? See, this API is the acronym for Application Programming Interface. which is a software intermediary. Means that this concept of API will allow two applications to talk each other. Means each time you use an app, see like Facebook, or if you want to send some instant message or check weather on your phone, means you are using API. So what is this API is all about? See, when you are basically using API on your mobile phone, the application connects to the internet and sends data to the server. The server then retrieves the data. So whatever data you need, the server retrieves the data and interprets it. Then it performs some interpretation and perform the necessary actions to send it back to your mobile phone. So whenever you are checking some weather related information in your mobile, you are exploring API. API means you are sending some request to the server from your mobile phone. You are sending the request in the server machine, and server is interpreting and sending back the necessary request as a response to your mobile, and then only you will be able to see the weather condition. So this is the basic concept. So API used by TensorFlow is Python. So that's why we are using this one. So now let's talk about the main topic, that is neural network. So understanding neural network is not so difficult, but if we know the biological neural network very well. So let's talk about this design principle. See, whenever we are talking about neural networks, then we can say that what is our aim? Say designing neural network means we are going to perform some parallel computation. That is, we can say that neural networks are parallel computing devices, which is basically an attempt to make a computer model of the brain. Means how our brain configuration internally look like. We are going to mimic that internal structure in the form of artificial neural network. But whenever we are designing something, say we are going to create artificial neural network, first we have to understand what is the objective of designing this neural network. See, objective is to develop a system to perform various computational tasks faster than the traditional system. So whatever traditional systems we have, whatever traditional hard computing mechanism we are having, here we are going to design some mechanism through ANN so that we can perform faster computational tasks. So this is the main objective. So this task means, you can ask me what kind of task we are going to perform. So main tasks that ANN can perform are pattern recognition, classification, approximation, optimization, and data clustering. I think these terms are not new to you, because in the previous sessions we have already covered some of the algorithm of performing classification, some of the algorithm of performing data clustering, like K-means clustering algorithm. Here we have used SVM, here we have used K-means clustering. And so these are the different tasks ANN can perform alone. So what is the objective of designing artificial neural network? Here the prime objective to perform speedy computational task on performing this kind of activities: pattern recognition, classification, approximation, optimization, and data clustering, right? So this is the prime objective of designing artificial neural networks. Now, whenever I am talking about ANN, so as per our discussion up to now, we can say that up till now, whatever we have discussed, it is an efficient computing system. And I have already explained that the central theme of ANN design is borrowed from biological neural networks. And now you have to understand there are several names of this ANN. Means this ANN are also known as artificial neural systems, or it is also known as parallel distributed processing systems. And there is another name, this name is a little bit unconventional, connectionist system. So whenever you find these three names, all these concepts represents the concept of artificial neural network. So this is the names that we can use alternatively in place of ANN. So this is the basic thing about ANN. Now we have to focus on the detailed architecture and mathematics of the neural network. To understand that, we have to understand the concept of biological neuron, but not in details. I'm just giving you some very specific overview of this neuron. See, whenever we have a nerve cell, which is known as neuron, we can say that it is a special biological cell, and the responsibility of this cell is processing information. So in our brain, by using nerve cells, we can process information. So this thing we know. Now, according to an estimation that there are huge number of neurons, approximately 10 to the power 11, with numerous interconnection, means 10 to the power 11 number of neurons are there, and all our neurons are interconnected via some thread kind of thing, which is the number of interconnection may be 10 to the power 15. So huge number of neurons, and they are connected with each other. So this is the configuration. So if I am talking about a schematic diagram of biological neuron, then it will look like this. Say we have one cell body and we have a nucleus, and this cell body is known as soma, which is also known as cell body. It's an alternative name, soma, scientific name, and we can say that information processing is performed here. Now we have some dendrites associated with it. Dendrite means some kind of tiny threads like this. So these are known as dendrites. You can conceptualize this dendrites, means you can visualize these dendrites as receivers, means whatever information is fetched from the external environment, this dendrites will act as receivers. So dendrites means the receivers. And now see, we have this kind of tailed diagram that is known as axon. And at the end of the axon, we have this kinds of threaded nodes. So what is this? So after axons, this kind of things are known as synapses. Synapses means we can say that this synapses acts as an connection with other neurons. Because in our brain we have multiple neurons and they are interconnected with each other. So whenever two neurons are connected with each other, this connection is established via this synapses, right? And this is the flow of information. So this is the basic diagram of biological neuron. So let's discuss about this. So what is the functionality of this dendrites? So I've already considered this as this tree-like branches is responsible for receiving information from other neurons. It is connected to, and means in other sense we can say that they are like ears of neurons. Means this kind of ears, they are receiving something, some information from other neurons. And then we have soma, this thing, the cell body of the neuron, and it is responsible for processing the information, and they have received whatever information they are receiving from these dendrites. They are processing all this information over here. And what is this axon? What is the responsibility of this axon? It is just like a cable through which neurons send the information. So through axon, information flows from one neuron to another. And what is the synapses? So it is a connection between the axon and the other neuron dendrites. Because if I consider this is a cell body of other neuron, then we have dendrites over here. So these synapses are connection between axon of the previous neuron and the dendrites of the next neuron. So this is the basic concept. Now why I am discussing this thing? Because this architecture, we borrow this concept for designing ANN. Now we have to compare this concept. So before going into the details architecture of ANN, first we have to understand which terms are associated with which terms in artificial neural network. So let's compare the terms. So we have biological neural network and artificial neural network. So the concept of soma, the cell body, is borrowed in artificial neural network and it is known as node. So whenever I discuss about node in artificial neural network, you have to remember one point: whatever task soma will perform, that is the information processing, the node will perform the same thing. So soma represents node. Now let's talk about dendrites in biological neural network. So this dendrites is replicated as inputs. So whenever I discuss about input in artificial neural network, then you have to understand it resembles dendrites. Dendrites means these dendrites are responsible for receiving information from other neurons, right? Now we have the concept of synapse, this one. So what is the synapse here? Here in the artificial neural network, synapse will act as weights, or you can say that it will act as interconnections. So the concept of synapse we have to enforce in artificial neural network in terms of weights. How? I will explain. And then the concept of axon is replicated as output. So all these concepts are designed in artificial neural network where the terms are different, but they are designed in order to perform whatever activity these components will perform, they will try to do the same kinds of activity. Now we have to understand the basic working functionality of the artificial neural network. So now I'm going to design the block diagram for artificial neural network so that you could compare these two diagrams. Just a minute. Now let's draw the diagram of artificial neural network. See, artificial neural networks will have some input nodes. Input node means what? So these are the input nodes. So what is this input node? See here, input node means dendrites. So whatever this tree-like structure depicts, this input node depicts the same thing. So dendrites will receive the information though. So the main responsibility of this inputs is to receive information. See, this is input x1, x2, say up to xn. We may have many number of inputs. Just like this, we may have many number of dendrites. Now see, the concept of synapse is established over here as weights. So from these inputs, there will be one connection, and with each connection there will be some associated weights. And these weights are enforced in artificial neural network so that it could act as synapse. Synapse means it will control the information flow between axon and dendrite of the other neuron. So concept of weights are very much important. Now, then we have one processing unit, that is SOMA. That is the information processing. So in order to perform information processing, here we have to perform two steps. The first step is known as summation, and here after summation we will find some output, say y in, and then here we have another processing concept which is known as activation function. And then finally we will get the output as y. Now see, what is the concept of biological neuron? Conceptually, some components are borrowed, but artificial neural network is something different because it uses some inputs, then it uses some weights, and then it will process the information in a two-step. The first step is the summation step, and the second step is it is computing some kind of activation function, and then only we will able to see the outputs. So this is the very basic architecture. So in this diagram, now we have to understand what we are actually doing. Now concentrate over here. Here it is a summation. Now we have to find out what summation we are actually performing. So summation means this is the y in, it is calculating y in. So first we have to understand what is this y in. See, here we have number of inputs and here we have number of weights. So what information processing is done over here? See, each input and each weight, they will be multiplied, like x1 w1, then x2 w2 up to xn wn. Say, now here summation means we have to add them up. Then only we will get the value of y in. So this is the interpretation of summation, means this concept is known as weighted sum. Weight is used in order to perform this summation. Now, why we want this weighted sum concept? See, here, whenever the information is coming through these dendrites, so what is the intensity of the information? Large intensity, small intensity, feeble intensity. What is the power of this input? It is determined by this receivers. So in order to conceptualize the intensity, the weight factor is introduced. So by visualizing the value of weight, we can understand whichever inputs are received for processing, what is the intensity of that input. Means if x1 input is very much important for this processing, it means the weight is high. If it is a very feeble input, then the weight W2 is low. So intensity of the input or importance of the input is determined by the weight factor, right? And here first processing in the neural network is known as weighted sum processing. Means it will multiply input into weight and then it will add them up. So conceptually it will look like y in, which is equal to summation of say I to m number of inputs, so xi to wi. So this is the basic representation of summation, weighted sum, input into weight. So it is also known as net input. So y in is known as net input. So this is the first concept. Now see over here, the output y is calculated by applying some activation function on this net input. So whatever y in we are getting, then on the top of this y in, this function is applied and then only we are getting the output. So here at this point of time, what we are performing? We are performing that output of the neural network is finally achieved by applying function on this y in, means net input. So we can say that by applying a function on net input. So this is a two-step processing. So always whenever we are working on artificial neural network, you have to remember that whatever output we are getting, it is coming from the two-step calculation. The first is weighted sum, from where we are getting net input, and then we are applying activation function on this y in, and then only we are getting the output. So this is the basic architecture of artificial neural network. Understood? Or you have any question, you can ask me.
Yes, ma'am, understood.
Okay, so I can go into the details, right? So
Yes, ma'am.
after considering this artificial neural network, you will able to understand one more term, means there will be one more term associated with it. So whenever we are going to design artificial neural network, you will find me writing one term that is known as multi-layer perceptron. So now we have to decode this term. See, now you can ask me one question. Okay, we have understood artificial neural network, but whenever we are learning machine learning from day one, we have categorized our learning process into 2 or 3 subcategories, that is supervised learning, unsupervised learning. So definitely the first question should come in your mind whenever we are enforcing this multi-layer perceptron kind of activity, then what kind of learning or what kind of learning algorithm we are going to design. So here, multi-layer perceptron, whenever we are doing this thing using ANN, it means we are performing supervised learning, or we are going to design supervised learning algorithm. This is fixed. Then what it will actually do? See, I have already explained that there is one activation function, right? After enforcing activation function on y in, we are getting the output. So what is the objective of this, means what this multi-layer perceptron will do? We can say that this multi-layer perceptron, MLP, which is also known as MLP is a supervised learning algorithm that basically learns a function. What function? Say it is learning a function, say f dot, which is a mapping function. It will map, say, r to the power m to r to the power o. Now try to decode this thing. What this MLP is actually doing. See, first thing, learning function is the objective of this supervised learning, MLP. So we know that first point is clear, I think. MLP is a supervised learning. Then the second step. Second step is, what is the purpose? MLP will learn. So what is the formula of learning? It will learn a function. Which function? F dot function. And see, f dot function is performing some kind of mapping. So what is this? So before going into the details, I will give you a third point, that is this learning, this f dot function learning is achieved by the training process. Means if we train our neural network on particular data set, then only this learning is achieved, right? Now come to this part. Here, what is the meaning of M? Here M means number of dimensions for input. So we know that how this functions, learning function we are going to achieve, we have to perform training process on some particular data set. And whenever I am talking about some data set, we have already explored numerous number of data sets where we have some inputs. So whichever inputs we are talking about, the features, the dimensions of the input, so number of dimensions means what is the dimension of the input, it represents as M. Now let's talk about this O part. What is this O? O is the number of dimension for output. So O means number of dimension for output. Now see, in a data set, say we have F1, F2, F3, these are the number of inputs. In the data set, we may have more than one number of outputs also. So basically, this multi-layer perceptron can perform learning of function which will map m-dimensional inputs to m-dimensional output. So O means number of dimensions of output, right? Now let's talk about some more details. See, whenever we are talking about artificial neural network, I have already explained that we will have some inputs like this. So they are connected via weights, and then we will perform two-step processing, and then we will get the output. Now let's discuss about what is this inputs. Means if I write capital X is equal to x1, x2 up to xm number of inputs, and say our target is say y. So now what is this x1, x2 and xm? So all these x1, x2, xm's are basically features of the data set. So we know that what are known as features whenever we deal with iris dataset. Sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, those are the features. So how many features we have in iris dataset? 4 features. So whenever we are going to classify iris dataset, so we will have x1, x2, x3 and x4. This much number of inputs for the neural network. So what is the conclusion up to this point? Here the first question is, what should be the number of neuron in the first layer of the artificial neural network? That is, in the input layer, how many neurons will be there? So your answer will be, since neurons represents the features in the data set, so whatever number of input features are available, that will be the number of neurons in the input layer. So if we have m dimensional features, then we have m number of neurons, right? So this is the concept of input. So now there is another property. So why we are considering MLP? Now this MLP can learn non-linear functions approximator. Means it will act as a non-linear function approximator for either classification or regression. See, what is non-linearity? I have already discussed, because we have already discussed about linearly separable thing, non-linearly separable data sets. So whenever your data sets, see, we are performing any classification where data values are very much mixed, they are arranged in a mixed and match manner. So there should not be a one line which can separate, we cannot separate them with a straight line. So we have to separate them with a curved line. So these are the concept of non-linearly separable activities. So what is the actual purpose of this MLP? This MLP, multi-layer perceptron, can act as a non-linear function approximator either for classification or for regression. So whatever data set you are using, you can either classify it or you can perform regression on it using MLP. Both tasks can possible. But try to understand, it is different from logistic regression, right? So I will tell you what is the difference between that. So this is the very basic thing you have to keep in mind whenever we are discussing multi-layer perceptron. So what we have discussed so far? So we have discussed about MLP. In the MLP, what we have discussed, the leftmost layer, which is known as input layer, like this. The leftmost layer is known as input layer, consists of set of neurons. So these are the set of neurons, and which represents features. And how we can write it as, this neurons can be many number of neurons we have. They can be represented as x1, x2, say up to xm. This is all about input layer. They are representing input features. Now each neuron in the next layer, means it does not imply that we will have only on one layer. So after this layer we may have another layer. So this is the first layer. First layer in the neural network is known as input layer, and whatever number of layer we have over here, means before the output layer, these layers are known as hidden layers, right? So each neuron in the hidden layer represents some transformation values from the previous layer with the weighted linear summation. Means we know that whenever we are dealing with input neurons, some weights are associated with it. afterwards we will perform some weighted sum over here. So what is this hidden layer? See, conceptually we know that whatever information and weight we are gathering from the previous layer, they are coming to the next layer. So what is this? What is the purpose of the neurons of the hidden layer? So the purpose of the hidden layers, neurons in the hidden layer, means it transforms the value. So whatever value we are accepting from the previous layer, they will transform all those values from gathered from the previous layer with a weighted linear summation. Weighted linear summation means again it will perform x1 w1 plus x2 w2 like this. And again we know that this summation is not enough. This summation will be followed by one activation function, and that activation function we have already discussed, which can be represented as this thing, mapping of this input and output dimensions, right? So now here the question is, fine, so neural network means whatever information we are gathering, it is coming to the hidden layer. Hidden layer is performing the mapping function, means this kind of function it is performing. But there are lots more questions associated with it. Means whenever we are reaching to the output layers, this output layer receives the values from the last hidden layer. So from this diagram it is clear. So it doesn't matter how many number of hidden layer we have, but what is the output layer? Output layer means the final layer which receives all the processed information from the last hidden layer, and it transforms them into the output, and then only we get the output. Now here the question is, what is the main question over here? See, whatever activation function we are using over here, we have multiple kinds of activation function. So now after understanding the basic architecture of the neural network, there will be two terms associated with it. One is activation function and one is bias. So here my point is, the calculation of artificial neural network is not just performing summation and then applying some function on this y in. This is not so simple. So there will be two questions. First is what kind of function we should use, means what kind of nonlinear function we should use. And then there is one term associated with this, that is bias. So the importance of bias we have to discuss in details. But now here the question is, what is this activation functions are all about? See, in case of activation function, we can use many kinds of activation functions. Means it may be sigmoid function, it may be hyperbolic tan function. So what activation function we should use, it totally depends on the data set. Means what kind of data set we are dealing with, according to that data set, means and what kind of task we are going to perform. On the basis of that, we have to select our activation function. So this thing you have to keep in mind. The formula of the activation function is not fixed. So whenever we are going to design any neural network for a specific activity, then you should concentrate on activation function design, and you have to justify which activation function is important, can be mapped on which kind of problem. You cannot use any activation functions, right? So this thing you have to keep in mind. So since we are not discussing in details what kind of activation function we can use, I'm just giving you a very basic overview. That is, whenever we are talking about activation functions, before that I'm just summarizing what we have concluded so far. So if, say, consider this, if it is a neuron, and if this is the inputs, this can be also one kind of representation that you can find everywhere. That is, these are the inputs. See, here I'm writing 3 inputs, means you can you can visualize conceptually, that is in the data set we have three features, x1, x2 and x3. And then definitely each and every feature should have weights associated with it. And here what kind of task we are performing? We are performing two steps task. One is the weighted sum, that is xi and wi, and here we are performing sum function. So whatever we are calculating over here, we are enforcing function on it. Now here we are getting the output. Now here try to understand where we are going to discuss the next topic. The topic is, here the problem is calculating x1 xi wi is not enough. Here we need another term which is known as bias. Always we need a bias in order to calculate the summation. And the second thing is, we need to choose the appropriate activation function for our application. So now we have a very large concept on this bias and activation function. We will discuss it in the next day. But before that, I'm just going to tell you one point, that is, whenever we are going to talk about neural network, then you have to understand one point. That is, neural networks are made of interconnected neurons. This thing we have already concluded. So these are the neurons, and they are interconnected like this. And see, we have many to many connection. Here also we will have many to many connection like this, right? So this is the first point. So this kind of connections we have. Now here we have only one layer which is known as input layer, which is equal to the number of features available. Means the neurons, the number of neurons is equal to the number of features. Then the second layer is known as hidden layer. And what is the number of layer over here and what is the number of neuron over here, we don't know, right? Depending on the application, we have to adjust this value. How to adjust this value, I will tell you. So it is not possible to find out or to assume that what should be the number of neurons and what should be the number of hidden layers. We cannot assume it beforehand. So it is a trial and error method. And the last layer is the output layer. Now see, there is one concept. Sometimes you find me using only one neuron in the output layer. Sometimes you find me writing multiple neurons in the output layer. So try to understand what is the concept. See, whenever we are going to perform prediction or forecasting activity, whenever we are going to predict something, so at that point of time, the prediction value will be single, the output will be single. So we will expect one neuron in the output layer. But whenever we are performing classification means, say we have three classes: Irish, Setosa, Versicolor and Virginica. Three classes. So whatever number of classes we are expecting, that will be the number of neurons in the output layer. So for Irish flower classification, we are expecting 3 neurons in the output layer, right? So number of neurons in the output layer may be 1 or maybe more than 1. Where we will find more than 1 neuron in the output layer? Where we are performing classification. So if we perform text classification, or if we perform some kind of number classification, handwritten digit classification, then in the output layer we have 0 to 9. Means how many nodes we can expect? 0 to 9. So we have multiple number of nodes in the output layer. But whenever we are predicting some value or forecasting some values, then there will be one node in the neuron. So what is the final conclusion of today's discussion? So whenever you are going to design any neural network, you have to first think what is the number of input neurons at the input layer. It can be calculated from the features. Then whenever you are performing this kind of task, then you have to decide about the bias. I will explain what is this bias. So weighted sum is not about multiplying input into weight. So actual formula is input into weight plus bias. So this is the formula of the weighted sum. And then whatever we are getting as a weighted sum, say y, we have to enforce one activation function. It's a nonlinear function on this y. Now then we have to decide what activation function we can use, hyperbolic tangent or sigmoid function. So this thing we have to keep in mind. Now again, the next consideration is what is the number of hidden layer and what is the number of hidden nodes. So it's a trial and error method. So each time we have to change these values and we have to check whether the accuracy of the output is improving or not. So it's a completely black box. What is happening inside the hidden layer, it is very hard to determine. And what we can determine, so now we have how many neurons will be there in the output layer. That thing we can determine. It depends on the what kind of application we are going to design. If classification, then we can expect more than one neurons in the output layer. If not, it's a prediction or kind of forecasting, then we will have one neurons. So these are the basic assumptions that you have to understand. So tomorrow we will discuss about the more important topic, that is bias and the activation function. So after understanding this concept, then we will perform some mathematical calculation. Then only you will be able to understand the coding part, right? So this is all about today's discussion. Now you can ask me any question if you have.
ম্যাম একটা জিনিস জিজ্ঞেস করছি, এই আজকের ক্লাসের ভিডিওটা ম্যাম আপনার চ্যানেলে আপলোড হবে, মানে আপনার ইউটিউব চ্যানেলে?
Yes, it is already there. Some videos are already there. I will give it to you, but I will upload it also.
Okay ma'am, thank you ma'am.
And also there is one channel from your college. There in there you will have all the videos already uploaded. Some of the videos are already uploaded. So I will give you the link, college channel link also.
Thank you ma'am.
So this thing you have to keep in. So understanding neural network is not so easy, right? So we have to understand lots of mathematics, right?
Can you repeat the many-to-many part?
Yes, sure. So here, what is the connection? So whenever we have, say we have two nodes in the input layer and we have two nodes in the hidden layer with two layers. So this is the connection. So this will be connected with this will be connected with this, then we have this kind of connection with this, right? So many to many. Again, it is connected with all the nodes of the next layer. It is connected with all the nodes in the next layer. Now it is connected with the output node. So this is kind of many to many connection, right? So every neuron in the previous layer is connected with every neuron in the next layer. So this is the concept of many to many connection. So any other question? So I have one question for you. Say I'm working on a wine data set and we have 13 features that will describe the wine characteristics, and I want to classify whether it is a type 1 wine, type 2 wine or type 3 wine. This thing I want to classify. Now can you tell me that what should be the number of neuron in the input layer and what should be the number of neuron in the output layer? Means can we assume that what
Ma'am,
should
number
be
of see the
Number of?
classification, but ma'am, output is 3 because there are 3 types of classification.
Mm-hmm.
And ma'am, can you repeat the question? I just missed the first.
Oh, so we have 13 features available to define wine characteristics.
Number of input is 13, ma'am.
Yes. So how many neuron we can expect in the input layer?
13, ma'am.
Okay. So now I have one question, that is, can we have more than one layer as a input layer? Or can we have more than one layer in output layer, just like hidden layer? Is it possible?
Yes, ma'am.
Means possible?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
Ma'am, if two types of wine mixes with each other. Like,
See, my question is it possible to have more than one layer as an input layer? Input layer represents what?
Ma'am, I think there are fixed number of neurons as in the biological neuron system, and if there are fixed number of input nodes, then it can't be multiple layer.
No. See, input node means what? Yes, input node means input. See, we have two concepts, layer and node. My question is, can we expect more than one layer as input layer? Means in input layer, say I'm going to design one neural network. In that neural network, I have 3 layers of input nodes. So is it possible?
No, I think input will be only one node.
Yes, one node, no, one layer. See,
layer,
what
one layer.
is the number of node? It is determined by the feature. But it is not possible to have more than one layer in the input section, right? Similarly, the question is, can we have more than one layer in output section? Layer.
No, ma'am.
Again, it is not possible. So here the answer is, we may have multiple number of nodes, that is multiple number of neurons in input as well as output layer. But layering, increasing the number of layers in input and output section, it is not possible. Now on the other hand, if I ask you this question, can we increase the number of layers in hidden layer? Yes. And here the point is, the hidden layer is the main part of the neural network which is actually performing the processing part. So whenever we are increasing the number of layers in the hidden section, then we will actually creating the deep neural network concept. So layering, multiple layering is possible in hidden layer section. However, it is not possible for input and output section. There will be only one layer in input section. There will be only one layer in output section. So this is the concept. So you have to keep in mind, right? So this is the most important thing. So actually it is possible in Python. It is also possible in R. So after designing the code, we can automatically create the architecture of the neural network also. We don't have to draw this kind of neural network. So whenever you are giving some input and it is performing some classification task, then it will automatically give you the output of the architecture of the neural network. So after the end of this class, I will share you one video where you can find how beautifully these architectures are automatically created in case of Irish flower classification. You just see the output. of that section. So the next day onwards, we will go and discuss some of the problems, how this neural network will work. And this architecture is so powerful, and this is one of the most important machine learning techniques that we can use. But there is one, I can say there is one drawback. So what is this drawback? We have to point it out. See, in some cases, we prefer to use support vector machine or any other classification algorithm instead of neural network. So here the question is why? So whenever I have done few researches, I have found that if the number of rows, you can say that if you have very less number of instances in your data set, then the neural networks are very bad. It will not be able to perform classification properly. So whenever the input data size is large, means whenever you have many number of input instances, then only you can expect that you can train your neural network in order to get a proper classification. So this thing I have faced. So for small data set, it is very hard to get a good classification accuracy in case of neural network classification as well as prediction accuracy. So this thing you have to keep in mind. So whenever you are dealing with a very small data set, whenever you have very less number of rows, so don't go for neural network, right? So why we are preferring this neural network? There are lots more other reason, but this is one of the drawback that I have faced ever, right? So whenever, but I don't know, this is not the only option. There are some more drawbacks, so I will discuss it. There is a drawback of stuck into local optima in other algorithms also, so we have to understand all those things, right? So this thing, if in the interview it is asked that what is the drawback of neural network, there is no as such no drawback, but whenever your data set is very small, that means less number of columns and less number of rows, then don't go for neural network. It will not be able to train itself properly. So if training is not good, then the testing outcome will be, testing accuracy will be very low. So this is the problem, right? So we will discuss some more details on that. So this is the very basic thing. So what you have to do, I will upload one installation process that I have already explained that. Now this code is executed on this part, Jupyter Notebook on TensorFlow. So how to install this Jupyter Notebook on TensorFlow? I will upload this guide. Please follow this guide and install it in your machine. Then only you can execute the code that we are going to discuss in the next class. So if you follow this code, you will see there are so many new libraries are coming over here, and see what is the output. See, output will look like this. So I'm performing Irish classification, and see, it will iterate. See, it's a huge iteration, right? So this is the outcome, and after the end of this iteration, you will get the score of the accuracy. So test set accuracy, see, and there is one factor loss. So understanding this output is also difficult. So we have to decode this output also. So this kind of outcome you can expect when we are using neural network for any kind of classification. And I have performed this classification on definitely on Irish flower, but you can perform this, you can use this code for cancer dataset also, or wine classification also. Anyways, so we will decode this code later on. First we have to understand this architecture. But see, I just want to tell you one point. We don't have to design the concept, means we don't have to write the mathematical computation over here, because everything is there. We have to import the library, but using library is not so easy if you don't know the underlying functionality of each and every library that is provided to you for designing something, then it is very difficult for you to understand. So we have to understand each and every concept over here. Then only you can design a proper artificial neural network. So instead of going into the details of this code, let me discuss each and every factors which are associated with ANN. Then only we can do this kind of coding, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.